All righty, welcome in another edition of the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. So great to have you along, and it's been a week or two. That means it's time to catch up with our good buddy. Go around the diamond with the former All-Star second baseman, former Gold Glove second baseman.
Get them all in there, baby.
And a hero to many out on the West Coast. He is Bret Boone, host of the Bret Boone podcast. You know, Boonie, I was flipping through some stuff on the internet. I don't know where I saw it or how I saw it, but it was a commercial for Mariners tickets, and it was Jay Buhner convincing you or trying to convince you to shave your head. Now, obviously, we know you didn't, but that was part of the gig. But I was wondering if say back in the day, because you still have those lovely locks, Boonie. Like, let's say back in the day, Buhner, Edgar, Griffey, like they all kind of came up to you and like, Boonie, if you shave your head, it's gonna be the final piece. We need a good luck charm. We need you to shave that mane of yours. Would you or would you not do it, Boonie?
I wish I could tell you, of course I'd do anything for the team. No chance. I would never shave my head. Ever.
Well, and plus the fans came, as you said, the fans wanted those frosted tips.
Yeah, they needed the frosted tip. So no, I wasn't a candidate for the bald look. However, for one glorious evening,
I wasn't either,
but you're forced into it.
Yes, I was forced into it. But
for one glorious evening, the commercial you were watching, we pretended that I shaved my head. That I'll tell you, I remember that shoot. That it took us like 2.5 hours. We were drinking beers, and it was fun. Me and Buhner, we got to that point. You know when you get giggly with a buddy?
Oh yeah,
and you just can't. It's like action. Oh, okay, whatever, action. And then by the end of the night, they finally got it done. That's one of my favorite ones. That was the year Buhner retired, and he was kind of passing the torch. So, yes, I like that commercial.
Well, that was the answer that I expected. Like, and not that you, like you said, not that you wouldn't do anything for the team, but I think, you know, the hair for you, it still is. But I certainly back in the day when you frosted the tips, it was a very big deal to you. And as you said, you got to give the fans what they want.
The city expects it. Yes.
Right. Speaking of giving the fans what they want here on the Chico Bormann Show, we're going to talk about our Guardians here. And Boonie,
Guardians are good, man.
They continue to roll 43-23. They are 5 up on Kansas City, who just got done with the Yankees, and we're going to get to them in a second. Okay. So this is the time of year, hell, even in May they start this, but especially now, the trade deadline's coming up in July, end of July. And I know we've done this with you the last couple of years where teams have to take that good, long, hard look in the mirror and say, what are we? Well, I think with the Guardians, the answer is easy. Now, I'm not saying they're going to continue with this clip, but, you know, they've played well. I don't think it's much of a mirage. But one thing that this team clearly is going to need at the deadline or before is a starting pitcher. Now, the good news for the Guardians is, Boonie, they can kind of deal – like you look for teams that and we've been in both places where you're dealing for short-term, a rental-type player, or you're dealing for even a long-term solution. They can really do both because they haven't dealt from their farm system in quite a while. Certainly didn't last year. They dealt Aaron Savali for Kyle Manzardo. But looking at this Guardians team, is it in your mind imperative that they add an arm to that rotation?
Oh, without a doubt. This team is one of the many surprises for me. And I didn't say Cleveland wasn't going to be a quality team, but the way they've gotten out of, you know, like you said, they're 43-23. I never expected that. I never expected that from what we were calling at the beginning of the season, a weak division, that AL Central. So I kind of been looking at them recently. I've been looking at the Kansas City Royals, and I look up and they're 40-20 or 40-30. And I'm going, they're playing much better than they have definitely in recent years. The team that kind of scares me in that division, because I think they've really underperformed this year, is the Minnesota Twins. They really have some offense in Minnesota especially with Lewis coming back, the
I
young
love that
phenom.
kid. I
That
hate to
guy's
say it, but I
man,
love him.
he's good. But Jeffers and Kepler, Buxton, we've been waiting for him to mature and blossom as a superstar for a lot of years now. But this Lewis kid's for real. I think they've underperformed pitching wise, so I think there's going to be a little more competition as the season goes on for the Guardians. But the Guardians, man, just aces across the board. Uh, I still think there's two elite teams in the American League, and I'm sorry, Chico, sorry, Bohm, I have not put the Guardians in that category. I think it's Baltimore. I think it's the New York Yankees
That's fair.
as the two elite teams, but Cleveland's right there, and the Seattle Mariners of the world, the way they pitch, are there in that second spot too. As recent history has shown, doesn't matter how good you are during the regular season. That hasn't been the path to the World Series necessarily. But this Cleveland team, I mean, with everything you went down, Chico, the beginning of the season with Bieber, your ace, getting off to a great start, and then all of a sudden having to pack it in and go have Tommy John. I thought there's no way with this staff that Cleveland's going to be sitting where they are right now. They surprised many. They've surprised me. They got an unbelievable bullpen, power bullpen, maybe the best bullpen in baseball with Clase at the top. But I think that it's imperative that they go out and get a starting pitcher. The guys have done a great job to this point. I think you need to bolster it. I think that the guys that have performed the way they performed this year, I think they deserve that, and I think hopefully the Guardians go out and get that starting pitch. Where are you going to get them from? I don't know. I think there's a lot of options. You can go to the Mets. You can go to the Toronto Blue Jays. For me, I think the Toronto Blue Jays. This experiment, and it wasn't an experiment. It was so promising 2-3 years ago with all these young, talented kids coming.
Yeah.
It just hasn't come to fruition. And I look at that staff this year with Barrios and Bassett and Gossman, who I thought was just going to be an annual Cy Young Award candidate. Kikuchi has blossomed, and it's just not happening for him, especially in that division. It's going to be really tough for him this year. I think it's still a little too early to find the haves and the have-nots. Toronto's kind of hanging; they're getting close to 500.
Let me not to interrupt you, Boonie, but because that's something that I think right now all of baseball when we talk, and you're right, it is too early for the haves and have-nots. But Toronto is such an interesting story. Matter of fact, the Guardians are in Toronto beginning tonight for a 3-game series. I mean, there's talk about, and with Uncle Arnie's team in New York, well, if first base is Vlad Guerrero going to be available, is Bo Bichette going to be available? You
Right.
mentioned Gausman, those pitchers. What do you think ultimately they do? Because they don't feel like a team that is going to say, all right, we're selling. I mean, we know from his days in Cleveland, Mark Shapiro, Ross Atkins, it doesn't feel like they would do that. But then at the same time comes that, as we've said many times, you've got to be honest with what you have in front of you. I just can't believe Toronto would be that fire sale type team. What do you think?
I think they would be. I'm kind of the opposite.
I hope they do, but I just
Yeah.
can't see it. It seems I don't know.
I think with all the new things going on in baseball, and some we like, some we don't like, this trading deadline has really upped the game as far as uh, the strategic value that it has. It's not a month out. It's not like, okay, we can get all our ducks in a row and we pretty much know who's in, who's going to be out of the playoff race. By adding teams, having 12 spots at the table for the postseason, and moving that trade deadline to the 2-month mark, now, man, you got so many people in that coffer of, do I buy? Do I say it? And it makes people make decisions. I think it's really cool for the game and strategic, and you don't know what to do. Whereas when you had it a month out, and there weren't 12 seats at the table, it was pretty cut and dry for most teams. We're either sellers or we're buyers. Now you don't know. And I think that adds a little intrigue to the game. I personally think watching this Toronto team, and before the season started, I picked Toronto to win that division.
I remember that. Yeah.
That's not looking very good right now. And the more I watch this team, it's like, yeah, when are they going to come to fruition? When is all this young talent that and they've added? They went out and they've added from a pitching standpoint. I just don't see it coming together. So I think, yes, if we're sitting here a month and a half from now, they're not in the playoff picture. I could see the Toronto Blue Jays completely tearing that down, because to this point it hasn't worked. Why hasn't Springer worked? He signed the big deal coming over from Houston. That hasn't particularly
They got
worked
no
out.
offense at all. And you look at the lineup, it's like, how is that possible?
You brought over a Turner who, yeah, he's getting older now, but all the great years with the Dodgers to be a real presence in that clubhouse. He hasn't had a typical Turner year, so there's a lot of things at play. I still think you've got to play it out a little bit. You got to give them another month. Let's see where we are in a month. But if they're not in position come trading deadline time, I could see Toronto kind of fire sailing it.
Former All-Star second baseman Bret Boone joining us. You can check out his podcast, should be checking out his podcast, which we'll get to the very latest there coming up in a bit. But the Bret Boone podcast, and he joins us here on the Chico Bormann Show on the Big Play Sports Network. All right, let's get to Brother Aaron, or as we like to refer to him, Uncle Arnie. I mean, here's the thing. When you made those preseason predictions, you're probably thinking, well, Garrett Cole, who knows if he's going to be back? And then, can Aaron Judge stay healthy? Yeah, the Soto signing, huge. What has been more surprising to you with the Yankees? That Aaron Judge is doing what he's doing, and we'll get to that in a second, or a guy like Luis Gil, who, Boonie, if you close your eyes and you say, okay, Garrett Cole, as we get ready, as we're in the middle of June, Garrett Cole is 8-1 with 2.5 ERA, whatever Gil's ERA. Like, you'd say, okay, yeah, he's doing. No, that Gil's doing that, and you're still going to get Cole back. What has been the biggest surprise for you with that Yankee team?
I think the whole thing's been a surprise. I never questioned their talent level. I thought it was a great deal I thought it was a great deal for both ball clubs, with the San Diego Padres and the New York Yankees this offseason when they made the deal for Soto. King going to San Diego, who I think is gonna flourish long term in that starting role. He's got electric stuff. Peralta, they got an arm in the pen for the Padres, and you get Soto in return. And I think the Yankees perspective on the deal was, hey, we're going for it. We need one of the best hitters in all the game, and that's Juan Soto, to come in, and we're going all in, and we're going to try to win a World Series this year. I think it was a great move. I think Soto fits into that clubhouse unbelievably. I think the Yankees have a unique situation clubhouse-wise. I think you have an Aaron Judge, a Giancarlo Stanton, a Garrett Cole type pillars in that clubhouse that really keep everybody in check. So when you come in, Juan Soto's a young superstar, going to probably get one of the most lucrative deals this next offseason. We'll see. And somehow he falls into place in that clubhouse where he knows his place. Aaron Judge is kind of, he got the torch passed to him captain-wise, even though I don't think there's any captains in baseball, only hockey. Maybe soccer. But
what about El Capitan?
Yeah. Judge gets that. He's carried on that tradition that Jeter had in that clubhouse to a T. I mean, as good as you can be. So I think that clubhouse is really run well. I think my brother does a great job interacting with the players. I think they like and respect him. But the most important and the best clubhouses I've been in, the manager didn't have anything to do with it. It was the players kind of managing themselves. I think that clubhouse does that. Anyway, you bring Soto over. He gets off to an unbelievable start. Aaron Judge has a rough April, but we all know the talent level of Aaron Judge. Probably, to me, the most dynamic player in the game from an offensive capacity. I mean, he's the only one I know that's capable of hitting 300 plus and hitting 60 plus homers. There's no other player out there that I think is physically capable of hitting 60 home runs. Aaron Judge is, and I think what he's doing right now, if we had to end it right now and vote, I think Aaron Judge is the MVP as of today.
Yeah. But let
the,
me run
the
some
re-
number. Let me run some
what,
numbers by you. Okay.
okay, hold on. Let me just finish
Oh,
on that.
go ahead. I'm
on
sorry.
the starting rotation.
Yeah.
How big of a surprise is this? You know, Cole goes down at the beginning of the season. My first reaction is there's no way that rotation can hold up without Cole. You need Cole to hold it together. Well, lo and behold, Rodon comes on, starts pitching like the Cy Young Award winner they expect they were getting 2 years ago. Nestor Cortez has done a great job. Clark Schmidt, who's on the IL right now, has matured beyond belief. 2 years ago, I said there's no way Clark Schmidt can be a starter on a championship level team. Well, he's proven me wrong. He's come a long way. Uh, Marcus Stroman comes there. He's just plopped in the middle of that rotation, doing an unbelievable job. Heel, the guy you talked about at the top of the show, he's been unbelievable. He might be the Cy Young Award winner if it ended today. And we don't even have Garrett Cole. He's coming back. Yankees are having problems. Who's going to go to the bullpen when Clark Schmidt comes back? I mean, that's a great problem to have, but unbelievable. And nobody, I don't think, foresaw this happening. Add that to a power bullpen. The only bullpen better in all of baseball might be the Guardians. So, full stop right now. It's a rock concert every night. They're as good as anybody in the game, and they've stayed away from that injury bug. All right.
All right. Well, first of all,
go ahead, Chico.
I'm glad that you know what, Boonie? I don't say this often. I'm glad you interrupted me there because you brought up now, it doesn't surprise or it's not earth shattering that Nestor Cortez, Carlos Rodon have bounced back the way. But yeah, when you look at that as a whole, Heel comes out of nowhere, but then those guys, revert back to form. You're right. That rotation as a whole, and they still don't have Cole back, is scary. But I got to talk to you. We talked the other day about Aaron Judge, and the other day when I looked this up, looked at his last 30 days. This was on
absurd
Tuesday, I think, that we talked.
Right.
So
it's Bonds type stuff.
Right. 433 batting average. This is over 30 days. 433 batting average, 15 home runs, 34 runs batted in. That was, again, over a 30-day period when I looked it up the other day. Boonie, this is Major League Baseball, as you know. The guy's hitting bombs, but he's hitting 433. It's like he's playing slow pitch ball, pitch softball.
It's Bond stuff. It's Babe Ruth stuff, what he's doing right now. Wow. I mean, it's a joke. I watch it. Now, he's 6'8". For his body, for his approach, he's got an unbelievable approach. Just technically, he's so good for what he brings, the leverage that he brings. That swing is for Aaron Judge. I don't think other people could hit with his approach, but technically speaking, for his size, it is fundamentally almost flawless. To watch him, the difference in Aaron Judge and the difference that I watched when I watched Barry Bonds for those years, what separated them was when us layman people get a good pitch to hit, we're in the zone. We knock the crap out of it. We hit a ball hard in the gap somewhere. Occasionally we get one up. It's a homer. Judge, when he's getting a pitch in the zone right now, it's leaving the facility. It's not like this is a base hit to left. It's like, no, he's going to hit a home run today at some point. And I don't remember since Bonds thinking about that with any one individual. I watch Aaron Judge right now. It's like, well, if you miss today, if you miss in the middle of the plate, it's probably not coming back. When the rest of us are, hey, he's in his zone, he's seeing the ball well, maybe a couple hits today. No, it's like, when's he going to hit the homer? Because he hits one every day or every other day. So it's been remarkable to watch. And like I said, I think being the captain of that team and just being in New York and the Big Apple, I couldn't imagine a more perfect fit for him, his personality, what he's doing on the field, the iconic franchise in the city of New York.
When you talk about in the zone, and I always go back, we talk about great seasons and, having a chance to get to know you, I certainly remember it. 2001 for you, batted 330, 41 home runs, 100 and something. 130 runs, but it was ridiculous.
No. 141 RBIs.
I'm sorry, 141 RBIs.
Don't be shortchanging me.
For Boonie. I do apologize there, Boonie. 331 batting average, which is insane. So essentially, you basically had an entire year. I'm sure you had some valleys, but you were spent the entire year, quote unquote, in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
When we hear people bring that, lay people like myself, morons like myself, say, "Well, he's really in the zone." Does the ball see? Is it bigger when it comes in? Does everything slow down? Like, give us an idea of what being in the zone means to someone like yourself or Aaron Judge.
Well, it's, I've only start to finish it, and it's only happened to me one time, and it was that year, 2001. Start to finish, especially at the big league level, I've never experienced 6 months of being in the zone without really, I really didn't hit a lull. Now a lull was maybe 2 for 7. And I mean, when you're thinking about it at the big league level and all the years I played, and I had some great years, and I had some good years, and I had some tough years, man. In the mid '90s in Cincinnati, from an offensive perspective, I had some struggling years, so I knew what it was like to scuffle. Uh, that was like a magical season, that maybe if we're lucky enough to play long enough, we get to experience it once. I got to experience it once, start to finish. I didn't have a lull. And when I got there, I had been through, I had been knocked to the mat and got back up. Like I said, I'd been an all-star. I'd had a tough year. I was mature enough at that point as a player, 10 years into my career, that, I didn't question it too much. I just said, roll with this thing, because it's kind of magical. We were having a magical season team-wise. I was having a magical season individually. And instead of really parsing it and worrying about, hey, what am I going to do to keep this rolling? I just didn't mess with it, Chico. I got to the ballpark. I stayed within my routine. And I didn't question it. I just thought, this is one of those years that I'm going to be blessed and start to finish, really not go through a tough period. And it happened for me. Never happened again before or since. But yeah, it was unbelievable. You're coming to the ballpark every day. You're whistling. You're skipping to the ballpark. You can't wait to wake up in the morning and go kick the crap out of some starting pitcher. Whereas in a normal year, yeah, you have those times where you get up and, hey, things are going good. We just won 4 out of 5. I'm on a hot streak. Can't wait to get to the ballpark. But then you have those times during that year where you want to stay under the covers, because it's like, oh no, and I got him, and I've got to face him today, and I'm 0 for my last 7, and I'm not seeing the ball, and I got to hit early.
That year, was there anybody that you were like, oh man, because I know you said, and as a ball player, I get it, like you can't fear anybody. But is there somebody during that season hitting 330 and driving in 140 where you were the least bit like, I don't know, this could be an over, or are you just constantly feeling confident against whoever it is?
No, you still have your guys. You still have your druthers. You still have the guys that you don't set up well to your eye. That I think about, because we get asked all the time as ex-players, who are the toughest guys you faced? My stock answers, but there's guys like Pedro Martinez, who's for a 3 or 4 year period, went through the best span, or up there in the history of the game as far as pitching performances for a 3 or 4 year period. His bulk of work, obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame. But he was a guy necessarily, I didn't see him that well. I didn't like facing him. He was nasty. But I found a way to come out of there with a hit. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Some of those guys, you didn't like facing them. It was not fun, but it somehow came out of there with a hit every time. So statistically, you did okay. Other guys you didn't see well. You didn't like facing them, and statistically, I didn't come out very well, like a Randy Johnson. I didn't see it. I didn't like facing him, and I think I was like 2 for 17 career off him. So it worked out. So no, I still had my guys that man, he's tough on me. I don't see the ball well. He hides the ball well. But that particular season, more times than not, it seems like I came out of there with a hit.
It's funny you say Randy Johnson, only because I was just reading this yesterday. I came across an interview with David Justice. And, of course, in 97, there was the big trade, sent Lofton to Atlanta and Justice here. And it's so funny because, David Justice was a great player in his own right.
He was.
And I remember in 90s, he's talking about the 97 team here, and there was him, there was Jim Thome, and there was Brian Giles. who at the time was, I think, a rookie, which, man, we're getting old, but was a rookie. And they're having a meeting with Hargrove, and Johnson's on the mound. This is a regular season game. And Justice is saying, okay, Hargrove said one of you guys is going to sit. And Justice was as candid as can be. He goes, I'll be honest with you, I did not want to go out there and face Randy Johnson. But I couldn't say, Tommy, he kind of deserved a day off at that point. And I couldn't tell the Rook that, he had to go. So I went out there, and of course I looked stupid against him. And I thought, like, man, how dominant. And especially if you're swinging it from that side of the plate. Doesn't matter lefty, righty, he was still dominant. But like Justice was talking about how, he started it out here. He's like, I hated facing Randy Johnson. And he just laughed about it. He's like, so I was like, all right, Skip, well, I'll go out there and face him today, knowing full well that he was going to get dominated.
I'll tell you, there's Randy. Because early in my career, I played with Randy. So I got to play with and against a lot of great pitchers and, Hall of Famers. I've never played defense, and I played with Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavine just for 1 year. But I've never played defense behind a more dominant force than when I played behind Randy, and I believe it was 1993. If he was on, I don't care if you're left-handed, right-handed, it did not matter. The game was over. Barring like a major disruption and a mistake that the defense behind him would make. I remember watching games when he had it going, it doesn't matter who's hitting. It doesn't matter. This game is over. He is the most dominant person I've ever seen on a mound. And that's from a defensive perspective, playing behind him. That's what I remember my eyes told me. As a right-handed hitter, the one thing you have and you look for some solace during the course of a season is a lefty. A lot of those times when you're scuffling, you're not seeing the slider. It's breaking off the plate. It's breaking away from you. At lefty, it's always breaking into you. It gives you a little bit of a reprieve from chasing that slider off the plate. And you always look for a lefty. Unless it was Randy, it didn't matter. It's like, oh man, Randy, even at his worst, especially when he got into his career a little bit and became a real pitcher. Yeah, he's 6'10", he throws 100. That was everybody who thought, no, this guy was throwing 100, 6'10", releasing it. It seemed like 10 feet away from the play, but he was a pitcher. I mean, he was pitching he wasn't just throwing, he was pitching. There were three guys that affected me that way, left-handed. It was the best lefty I've ever seen is Randy Johnson. The second best lefty I've ever seen was Tommy Glavine. Two completely different techniques.
Interesting, yep.
But I didn't want to face either one of them. And the third, I hated facing Al Leiter. Al Leiter wore me out. But those are the only three lefties that I ever really minded. The rest of them I welcomed versus a righty. But definitely, wow. Getting back to the Randy thing, what a dominant guy and a spooky guy. He's scary to face. I didn't get scared of anybody. And really, I didn't get scared of Randy because I'd played with him. But, man, I didn't want to face him. He'd front door me, for all you guys listening out there, he'd front door me that two-seamer like he was a finesse pitcher. He'd backdoor me with a 2-0 slider in a 10-1 game, or a 3. He's throwing 100 and it's 3-0 in a 10-1 game. It's like, come on, just throw a strike. You backdoor me with a slider 3-0, just to just rub it in. Like, no, not only am I not going to give you something to hit, but I'm going to try to strike you out. And I'm like, you big unit. That's why you are a big unit. But yeah, dominant.
I love
it. He was unbelievable.
I love it. All right, Boonie, what's coming up on the podcast? You've been on fire lately. Dana White is coming soon.
Dana White is coming soon, and wow, I'll tell you, we got one next week. I just got back from an event. I went and did a golf event, and for the first time, I got to. And we've met in passing and through the years, at events in the off season and stuff. But I've never had a car ride, let alone a couple days with this gentleman. And he's going to be a beauty. And I have already told him I got to find a way to curb him, keep him in between the lines. but he said, Boonie, I say what I want to say. So we got Goose Gossage coming next week. And it, I've never sat in a car ride and been yelled at like I was by him.
Now
Well,
you know
maybe
what I feel like when you and I are talking.
yeah, my grandpa has yelled at me that way. and I was calling him by the end of our golf trip. I was calling Goose Grandpa Goose because I said, you're just like my grandpa. You're this old man. Get off my lawn. It's better when I played. I can't have a talk about anything. And he would scream at me and point in my face and tell me I know nothing about hitting, and he does. And then he would finish his point and he'd smile, and he's actually like a big teddy bear. But when he gets going, I mean, you've heard the Goose rants.
Yeah.
Everybody has. But then he smiles at you, and I really liked him.
That
as a guy.
event, didn't I see you on stage? It was you, Goose, and Raleigh Fingers.
Yes,
That's
yes.
awesome.
And I looked. I've known Raleigh for years too, and
Great facial hair, except for you.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them had the facial
Some of the
hair.
best
I told
ever.
Raleigh, I said, Raleigh, you ever going to get rid of that mustache? He's like, Boonie, that's the only way people know who I am. It's a moneymaker. And I said, point taken. But Raleigh's an awesome guy. And I would sit there. We were on stage. Of course, Goose took up all the air in the room. They'd ask one question, and me and Raleigh just put our mics down. Well, why are we even here? And I looked at Raleigh. I said, do you got to deal with this guy all the time? He says, it's unbelievable. He said, you don't get a word in. You just sit there and you listen to Goose, and him and Raleigh have a really good rapport. It was cooler being with the older folk out in Mesquite. But no, so we got Goose next week, and that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Awesome. Good stuff. Again, he is the former All-Star second baseman, host of the wildly popular Bret Boone podcast, which, by the way, if you'd like a T-shirt of the Boone podcast, you can get that. And actually, you give a chance to. Now, it says on the website, chance to get it signed. Boom. You and I, we've tried feverishly to get one of the gold gloves that is behind him, just over it would be his left shoulder. That's not happening. But you think, Boonie, you could
Yes.
appease us with a signed Boone podcast shirt, and we will hang it on days that we have you.
Actually, we've got some coming into stock here soon. So as soon as I get those in-house, Chico, I will push one over to the Chico Bormann show.
Thank you. Put it at attention me, not Bohm, because Bohm will take it.
Yeah, I'd like Bohm to, when you're not looking, take it off the wall, maybe wear it, hang it back up.
Oh, Bohm will wear it to one of his gigs.
You know what's funny? There's two different shirts. One is the Odyssey logo, which is, if you Googled.
He used to work for Odyssey. Yes, I know exactly who they are.
It would come up there. But there's another one, the original logo, that it's a picture of me in the dugout.
Oh, okay.
So by the way, and I felt funny doing this at first. I don't anymore. I'm shameless at this stage, but I'm wearing my shirt on the plane. I forget where I was going. And when this lady stops me, I mean, it's a picture of me. This lady stops me.
Could you be any more vain?
Right. She stops me and she whispers, she like pulls me down to her and whispers, she says, I really loved watching him play. And I said, oh yeah, me too. No clue it was me. It was just, she liked the shirt. And I thought, do I look that old? I mean, I looking at the shirt, I went into the bathroom, I looked at the shirt, I looked at my face. Yeah, a few more wrinkles, but I thought I kind of look like that guy. How did she not know?
Yeah, you're I would think you're for athletes and even older athletes, you're pretty recognizable. I mean,
well, the funny thing is, some people sometimes mess with you. That'd be funny. Like, hey, I really liked him playing. Hey, Brett, how you doing? Funny.
Right.
I really truly believe she had no clue.
She did. Yeah, because she would have hugged you. She would have planted a kiss on your cheek, everything. Yeah.
I was headed to Seattle, and I just thought, how does she not know? Come on, I'm wearing this shirt. Like you said, vain as hell. No, it's more shameless publicity. So who wears a picture of their face?
I was just going to say, like, if I tried that, I would get, I'd probably have to move. I'd probably have to leave the city of Cleveland. If somebody saw me at like Hopkins Airport and it said Chico Bormann Show, and it had that's the thing is not just it's the picture. If it's a
Yeah.
picture of your mug on you,
Right.
But you can get away with that.
But at this stage, it's like, is he really wearing a picture of himself? He is. And then it's almost so funny that you just start laughing about it, and then it becomes acceptable. I think it's great.
You're amazing. Boonie, we appreciate the time as always. We'll do it again here soon. Thank you, pal.
Thank you. See you, Bohm.
All right. He is Bret Boone, the former all-star second baseman, Gold Glover, had a magical year in 2001, and we just found out. I didn't even know that, Bohm. I didn't know that Boonie wore a T-shirt with, I'm looking at the shirt on the podcast site, which we're going to get for the studio, but he was wearing this shirt that I'm looking at around town.
We don't have a shot of you in the dugout, Chico, but we do have a shot of you on a dugout.
Oh, we do. Yeah, I forgot about that in the Wisconsin jersey. I remember we had Joe Thomas on, and I had to show him that. Look, I had to pay.
It is still in the system.
I had to pay off a bet. Do you have it available readily?
There you go.
Look at that. Look, I had hair.
Put that on a T-shirt.
I had hair. Boom. By the way, cargo pants. What are you doing, Chico?
Different times. It was acceptable.
That was my gosh. That's like early 2000s. Like I said, look at my head. You got some hair there.
Kind of looked like a wannabe rapper.
That's well, the shirt. I mean, it was like a quad XL, but gosh, there was a time when I was a decent, handsome-looking fella.
All right, I'll remove it for you now.
Thanks, Boonie. Boom. Boonie, too. All right, we're out of time. Boom, great job as always. We're not going to relay the conversation before we went on the air between Boonie and Bohm. That will stay right here amongst us, but it was really good stuff. Also, obviously, thanks to Bret Boone. I'm Mike Chico Bormann. We will do it again next week. Until then, make it a good one, folks. We'll see you.